Before dawn, Caracas was shaken by a series of explosions heard across several neighborhoods. Windows rattled, parts of the city were plunged into darkness, and residents reported low-flying aircraft over the capital as smoke rose near military sites. What initially appeared to be a localized incident quickly took on a far broader dimension. Within hours, the crisis escalated on the international stage. In Washington, Donald Trump posted a message claiming that Nicolás Maduro had been captured and removed from the country following what he described as a large-scale U.S. strike targeting Venezuela and its leadership. He further stated that Maduro's wife had also been arrested during the same operation, allegedly carried out with the support of U.S. law enforcement agencies. The president indicated that he would address the nation later in the day. At the time of the first reports, none of these claims could be independently verified. The situation on the ground remained fluid, and no official confirmation was immediately available from U.S. or Venezuelan authorities. In Caracas, residents described scenes of confusion and fear. At least 7 explosions were reported, followed by aircraft flying at very low altitude. Some people rushed outside, while others turned to social media to describe detonations, vibrations, and flashes in the sky. The apparent action lasted less than half an hour, but uncertainty lingered over the possibility of additional strikes and the true extent of the damage. No confirmed information on casualties was immediately available. Smoke was observed near a hangar at a military base, and another military facility reportedly experienced a power outage. Carmen Hidalgo, a 21-year-old office worker, said the ground shook and the air felt as if it slammed into people's bodies at the moment of the explosions. Hours later, several districts were still without electricity, although traffic continued to circulate and no mass movements were reported on major roads. The Venezuelan government accused the United States of attacking both civilian and military installations. In an official statement, authorities called on supporters to take to the streets and reject what they described as imperialist aggression. The government also announced the activation of national defense plans and declared a state of external disturbance, granting expanded executive powers and increased military mobilization, with national security cited as the top priority. On the U.S. side, the absence of immediate official clarification deepened the uncertainty. The Department of Defense referred inquiries to the White House, which did not respond right away. U.S. Southern Command, responsible for military operations in the region, also remained silent. This restraint contrasted sharply with the scale of the claims posted by Donald Trump, leaving unanswered questions about the objectives, targets, and scope of the alleged operation. One key development preceded the explosions. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration had banned American commercial flights from Venezuelan airspace, citing security risks linked to ongoing military activity. The restriction also applied to airspace over Curaçao. After the detonations, an advisory urged U.S. citizens in Venezuela to shelter in place due to reports of explosions in and around Caracas. This episode follows months of escalation. The Trump administration had intensified pressure on Nicolás Maduro, whom Washington accuses of ties to criminal networks and has charged under U.S. narco-terrorism statutes. At the same time, the United States expanded maritime operations against vessels suspected of drug trafficking in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, reporting dozens of strikes and a death toll exceeding 100. Operations justified as efforts to curb the flow of narcotics into the United States. In recent days, U.S. officials also referenced a drone strike on a docking area allegedly used by trafficking networks, described as one of the first publicly acknowledged direct actions on Venezuelan soil during the current phase. Donald Trump had repeatedly threatened strikes on targets inside Venezuela, framing them as actions against infrastructure linked to drug trafficking. For his part, Nicolás Maduro denounced these operations as a pretext for regime change, accusing Washington of using the fight against drug trafficking as political cover. Economic pressure has also intensified, with the United States announcing the seizure of sanctioned oil tankers and implementing blockade measures aimed at tightening constraints on Venezuela's economy. A reinforced U.S. naval presence has been deployed off the northern coast of South America. The arrival in November of a next-generation aircraft carrier added thousands of troops to what officials described as the largest U.S. military presence in the region in decades. In Caracas, this was widely perceived as a show of force, while in Washington it was presented as support for maritime operations. Despite the confrontation, Venezuela has indicated openness to negotiations with the United States on counter-narcotics cooperation. This tentative opening contrasts sharply with ongoing rhetoric of resistance and mobilization, underscoring how narrow the diplomatic space has become as military pressure grows. International reactions have remained cautious. Iranian state television broadcast images from Caracas, highlighting ties between Tehran and Venezuela. Across several capitals, attention focused on a single question: whether Donald Trump's claim regarding the capture and removal of Nicolás Maduro would be officially confirmed, and what such confirmation would mean for regional stability, command structures within Venezuela's armed forces, and diplomatic balances across Latin America. As dawn broke, Caracas remained suspended in uncertainty. Residents sought clarity on the scale of the strikes, the duration of power outages, and the risk of further attacks. Venezuelan authorities insisted that defense plans were active and forces mobilized. In Washington, the presidential statement propelled the crisis into uncharted territory by invoking an operation that, if confirmed, would fundamentally reshape Venezuela's political future and its confrontation with the United States. One thing is clear: the explosions in Caracas and the announcement from Washington have pushed an already volatile situation into unknown territory. With airspace restrictions, forces on alert, and competing narratives, the international community is watching closely to determine whether this moment marks a decisive political turning point or the beginning of a far more dangerous escalation. In the hours ahead, verification of facts, official communication, and regional responses will be critical in determining whether the world is witnessing a major shift in power dynamics or the start of a confrontation with long-term consequences for security, economic stability, and the future of the continent. If you found this analysis useful, share this video. And if you're not yet subscribed, subscribe now, activate the notification bell, like, and comment to support our work.